You know, in a world that feels more and more fractured, education often gets caught right in the middle. But what if a college decided to stop just reflecting society and instead tried to actively reshape it? Well, that's exactly what we're looking at today. A really bold experiment out of Beit College in Israel. They're trying to do something pretty radical. So let's get into it.
And really, it all comes down to this one huge question, right? Can a college, just one single college, actually change a country? I mean, that's the goal here. That's the ambition we're digging into. This idea of using education as a tool, right, on the front lines, to try and heal some really deep societal wounds. Okay, so to really get what they're trying to do, we have to look at the backdrop. Israeli society is dealing with some massive challenges. You've got intense political polarization, these deep, deep divides between different groups, and an education system that's honestly struggling to keep pace with it all.
And that leads to this fundamental problem, one that educators really everywhere are facing. The folks at Beit Berl are asking a really tough question. How in the world are you supposed to teach kids about equality and democracy inside a classroom when the second they walk out the school gates, society is screaming the exact opposite message at them? Well, their answer is pretty radical. It's a complete rethink of what a college should even be. They're moving away from that traditional kind of detached model, the ivory tower, and pushing towards something they call the activist academy. And this is a huge shift in purpose. So instead of being that isolated ivory tower that's all about theory, the activist academy is all about being engaged, being practical. It's about ditching that neutral, passive stance and becoming a place for real civic action. And here's the key. The goal isn't just to pump out teachers who are technicians, who just follow the rules. It's to shape them into public intellectuals who can actually lead change. So the big question is, how do they actually do this? Well, the first big piece of the puzzle is all about completely redefining the relationship between Israel's Jewish and Arab citizens. And they start right there, on their own campus. You see, they're throwing out that old idea of just coexistence. The one where everyone just kind of lives separately, but peacefully. Instead, they're pushing this idea of shared life. And this is crucial. It's not about avoiding conflict or friction. It's about leaning into it. It's an active partnership built on day-to-day interaction, on learning how to handle disagreements constructively, and on building real, genuine respect for each other. And this is where it gets really interesting because the college itself becomes a kind of living lab for this shared life idea. I mean, they don't just talk the talk, they research it, they practice it. For instance, they'll run simulations of real-world disagreements to teach people how to have a real dialogue. They encourage something called translanguaging, letting students mix Hebrew and Arabic freely, which turns the classroom into a space of mutual linguistic respect. And they actually train their future teachers to dissect official school textbooks and look for bias. So yeah, it's all about taking these big ideas and making them real. All right, let's look at the second pillar because this is where it all starts to connect. It's all about empowering teachers. The thinking here is pretty simple. If you want to change the system, you have to start by liberating the people on the inside. And this quote, this one really gets to the heart of it. The whole goal is for their graduates to know how to say no, to have the guts and the professional freedom to push back against a system, a bureaucracy that so often just crushes real education. It's a call to action, really, for teachers to be leaders, not just people who follow a script. So what exactly are they supposed to be saying no to? Well, to this idea of malignant accountability. And listen, this isn't just an issue in Israel. This is happening everywhere. We're talking about the global obsession with standardized tests, with rankings like the PISA exams, with measuring everything all the time. The argument they're making is that this entire culture is toxic. It hurts students, it burns out teachers, and it shrinks the whole purpose of education down to just test scores and economic outcomes. So what's the alternative? The model lays out a pretty clear path for transforming teachers. Step 1, resist that constant pressure to just knowledge stuff, cramming more and more facts into kids' heads. Instead, teachers are encouraged to use their own professional judgment, to be creative thinkers. And this is so important, to focus on their students' well-being just as much as their grades. Now for the third and final pillar, and this one might be the most controversial of all. The core idea is that in the world we live in today, higher education simply can't afford to sit on the sidelines. It has an active duty to defend democratic values. Yeah, that's a pretty bold stance to take, right? The thinking goes like this. When democratic norms and institutions are at risk, places like colleges and universities have to step up. They have to become a kind of firewall, a last line of defense for those fundamental values. And again, this isn't just theory. Beit is actually doing it. They've set up a whole institute focused on democratic resilience. It develops real, practical tools, it gets students working directly with civil society organizations, and it purposefully hosts the tough conversations, the really critical discussions about the country's biggest political challenges. The whole point is to make the campus a living, breathing hub for democracy.
So, okay, let's pull back for a second. When you put all these pieces together, building a shared society, liberating teachers, defending democracy, what have you got? Is this some kind of blueprint that other places could actually use? Let's break it down to the core principles. What's at the heart of this activist academy model? First, the idea that education is never neutral. It's inherently political. Second, to build a truly shared society, you need a radical kind of partnership. Third, you can't have meaningful education without teachers who are autonomous and empowered. And finally, the whole point of academic excellence. It has to be about serving social justice. And all of this leaves us with one last really big question to chew on. Is this activist academy a model that could actually be replicated in other divided societies around the world? I mean, could this work in the US or Northern Ireland or South Africa? Or is it a totally unique experiment, something that could only grow in the very specific, very complex soil of Israel? There's no easy answer, for sure. But just asking the question forces all of us to think and rethink what education should even be for in our deeply fractured world.